Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we're now on the road to 400 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love sports news, sports betting, special segments, daily uploads, updated rankings every single week, my reactions, anything at all, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. So I promise you, your subscription will be well worth it and much, much appreciated. And here in today's video, or this Thursday morning, there is a lot of crazy news going around, especially in the NBA. About 20 minutes ago, I got a notification about Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier getting arrested in some gambling conspiracy right now. Terry Rozier's been on kind of the hot seat anyway with that. But Chauncey Billups coming out with it now, especially with him being the Trailblazers head coach, it's a major story. So I'm actually going to talk about that first here in today's video. But I was originally going to start off with the Vikings and Chargers Thursday night football game tonight, giving some of my thoughts and predictions. But we'll get to that, obviously. I got a lot of things to talk about here today, and now including this. So let's get started here today with the Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier news swirling around this morning. They both got arrested. FBI Director Kash Patel is going to be holding a press conference at 10 p.m. to announce the arrests from this investigation tonight with these two. So it's pretty serious. I mean, look, Terry Rozier's kind of already been in the news with this anyway for over a year now. I mean, this has been swirling around for a while. And in his case, we've seen it with Terry Rozier. A lot of people went back and watched some of the game clips and everything. There was shots like he blatantly missed that were wide open, and they were like, look, I get if it clanks off the rim, you shoot it short, whatever it is. But, I mean, he was airballing. It was a lot of really just not NBA-looking plays. This was a guy, like, a few years ago before he got to Miami, and I think Miami actually traded a good bit to get him, was a pretty high-caliber player. I mean, Terry Rozier was a really good player for a while. Never really, he was kind of a borderline all-star. I mean, that's still a really good player to have. And when he got to Miami, when this whole thing kind of started swirling around, he was a completely different player. I mean, he was so bad, he was borderline unplayable. He went from a borderline all-star caliber player to being pretty much unplayable. So to me, that kind of says enough right there. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch, but I do start looking at the facts. And now with him getting arrested today, I think Terry Rozier is low-key in some deep shit. I'm not going to lie. I've seen it, but this is not a good look for the NBA, especially with Malik Beasley. The retired players always, not always, but in every league, there's a lot of retired players that get into gambling and get into some weird stuff out there. But I'm just saying this because we're talking about the NBA right now. Gilbert Arenas a few months ago got caught in some big gambling scandal. I mean, a lot of these guys. I think Paul Pierce did as well. And now you got a head coach. It is, see, with me with the NBA right now, it's already struggling to retain viewership, gain new viewers, and just keep the casual fan really watching games. Well, now when you have stuff like this going on, Malik Beasley last year, I think he's still kind of being investigated with the whole thing. Terry Rozier now, who's, I mentioned it, this has been going on for a while now. Now, Chauncey Billups, who I think just coached the game last night, now gets arrested this morning. So this is really bad. Like, this is really bad for the NBA right now. And I can guarantee you, and I can say it's about the NFL, the MLB, whatever league it is. I'm sure there's guys we do not know about that are gambling illegally on games. I am like 100% positive. There's players in the NFL, maybe even coaches, same thing with the MLB, that are betting illegally on games. To me, there's no doubt about it. There's at least one person doing it. And there's plenty more in the NBA as well. So the fact is, though, with the NBA is that these guys get caught because they're doing it so egregiously and so just out there. It goes to show you that whatever Adam Silver, whatever the league is doing, is clearly not enough for the illegal sports betting as it is. Because these guys get so egregious with it. I mean, there was a situation with a Bulls player. God, I forget his name right now. Oh, what was his name? I don't know. But if you go look up the article, Bulls player gambling scandal or whatever it was a few years ago, he's like permanently banned from the league. The whole thing got taken to court. I've talked about this like 100 times. Now I get on the podcast, and of course I can't remember his name. But he would go out there. He'd have his friends go out there, put in parlays for him. and they'd put in like under 4 shots. Well, they'd put in hundreds of thousands of dollars on these parlays and for him to be under 4 shots made or 4 shot attempts or something. And he'd go out there and miss 4 shots just blatantly. And it's so out in the open in the NBA for some reason. I mean, you can't really necessarily tell in like the NFL. I know, of course, you have like the really weird penalties. You look and it's like, why would he throw that flag? Why'd that flag come in late? Why is there nothing thrown? Like, I don't necessarily know about the player standpoint in the NFL. Like, I'm sure someone has definitely done it or they are doing it. But in terms of making it look obvious, a lot of these guys' careers are on the line. Like, you can go out and miss like 4 shots in the NBA and it doesn't really matter. Like, you're probably going to stay on the roster anyway, especially if you just average 8, 9, 10 minutes a game. A lot of those guys, it's not hard to get cut from the NBA, but if you show any sort of talent, you're not really going to get cut quite as easily as some of these other guys are, especially in the NFL. I mean, you have one drop or anything like that, you're cut, you're gone, especially if you're a borderline roster player. So those guys have a lot less room for error there, especially in the NFL. But man, in terms of the NBA, this is a really bad look. I mean, it just is. Chauncey Billups, a guy who's a head coach, and when you're a head coach in any league, you're supposed to be a guy who's a grown adult. I mean, I guess they're all technically adults, but I mean, the players, some of them are younger than me, or just around my age, really. But these head coaches are the adults in the room, the mentors, the guys who are supposed to keep everything under control, and even someone who the players can look up to really succeed in their league and just in life in general, especially if they're good guys. But Chauncey, I mean, a former player. I mean, I think he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame this last offseason. So, or he was a Hall of Fame candidate. I think he did end up actually getting in the Hall of Fame. A guy who's pretty revered in the NBA. I mean, especially by Pistons fans and stuff like that. A lot of people love him. A lot of fans do. And for this, it's just horrible. It is horrible. And it's a lot of this happens under Adam Silver's watch. Who, if you know me, I'm not a fan of Adam Silver at all. I think what he does for the league, it's very boring. He's obsessed with tournament style play. He doesn't really listen to anyone else. He's a very stubborn individual, to be honest with you. So I'm already not the biggest fan of him. As I think I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but the NBA has already been in some deep shit before, especially with Patrick Ewing. This was before I was born, but of course, I mean, a lot of people know about it. It's a pretty popular thing. But Patrick Ewing with the draft lottery, they think they folded the corner for him. And that's happening, and they think multiple lottery drafts, to be honest with you. They really do. And I think it happened this previous draft lottery, to be honest with you, with Cooper Flagg and the whole thing with the Luka Doncic trade. Look, a lot of these trades, especially a massive trade like that is one of the biggest trades in NBA history. I mean, this wasn't something that was like, hey, it's one of the biggest trades of the season. Like, we're talking in the history of the NBA. Luka Doncic is going to go down as most likely a top 20, 15 player of all time. Very well could. I mean, that's a ceiling. That in the middle of the prime of his career, after he took a team to an NBA Finals, gets shipped to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. And usually stuff like that, like there's rumors going around like, hey, the Dallas Mavericks ownership is not happy with Luka. There's maybe some trade talks in place. I mean, it was zip, silent, nothing going on in the league. And all the time about Luka getting traded, AD or anything. And I think this happened behind closed doors because the Mavericks had a less than 1% chance to get Cooper Flagg. They were in the play-in tournament like a couple of weeks before they ended up getting him. If you know, Cooper Flagg is a generational prospect, even though he didn't necessarily have the greatest game last night in his first game of his career. But it's the first game of his career, right? Who cares? But anyway, they have a less than 1% chance. And all of a sudden, the Luka trade happens. The viewership is plummeting in the NBA. And then they end up trading Luka to the Lakers and ends up getting everyone in trade. Of course it does. It's a pretty massive trade. Again, like I said, one of the biggest trades in NBA history. A little fishy there to me. I think the NBA has a lot of fishy stuff going on, and I love the NBA. I watch a lot of the games. I love the players. I've always been a basketball guy. I absolutely love it. But I'd be lying to you if I said that the NBA wasn't like the shadiest professional league that there is, to be honest with you. And a lot of it has come out into the public view. Like a lot of this is going to happen. At least don't let it get out in public view all the time. And it does, and it's ugly when it does. It is ugly, and this whole situation here is ugly. I don't know what the hell the Trailblazers do. I mean, they're going to have to fire their head coach. Look, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So, I mean, I guess we'll see, but it's not looking good. Let me just say that. I mean, now this whole thing's going to be looming over. When you have stuff like this that happens, you're never looked at the same. I mean, regardless, you can't really be in the room, to be honest with you, unless you are blatantly proven innocent. Even still, when these people are proven innocent, they have a hard time getting a job back in leagues like this, just because their reputation's kind of stained. Like, I feel like wherever there's smoke, there's fire. And with something like this, I feel like there has to be something brewing. I mean, they wouldn't just necessarily pull Chauncey Billups aside and be like, dude, there's something weird with this going on. And all of a sudden they get arrested. Like, there's clearly something weird going on there. Whether or not it's to the extent of what they think it is, I don't know. But we'll have to find out. I just thought that was something I'd talk about this morning because that's some big news, especially with the Trailblazers supposed to be I mean, they kind of had some playoff hopes this year. They're a young team with some really good signings they've had. Denny Avdia has really broken out. So they have good players. So, I mean, at least a play-in tournament team. You know, there was hopes of them taking a little bit of a lead this year after kind of being the bottom of the barrel of the NBA the last few years since Dame left, really. But, yeah, man, that's a pretty massive blow for these teams. It's a bad look for the NBA this morning. In terms of a league that's already struggling to retain viewers, that is not a good look. They've got to get this under control. Adam Silver's got to figure out something. Look, and as I mentioned previously, I'm sure every league there is someone illegally sports betting, a player, maybe a coach. I mean, someone out there is doing it on a roster somewhere. But the amount of guys that do it in the NBA and that end up getting caught because it's so egregious the way they do it out in the open clearly shows that there's not strict enough rules for this that's going on, especially when you have head coaches doing it now. That's the massive issue, especially when you have multiple instances over the last few years of this. The NBA is in some deep shit. Next thing I want to talk about here is the Vikings and Chargers Thursday night football game tonight. News has come out that J.J. McCarthy's most likely not going to play. I don't think he is playing. He hasn't really practiced this week. So, I mean, I think for both of these teams, in terms of, look, these teams have playoff-worthy rosters. I mean, these teams are kind of like playoff or bust. Look, the Chargers are dealing with injury. Both these teams, let me not just say the Chargers, both of these teams are dealing with injury issues of their own. I'd say the Vikings are probably more healthy. I'd say they're definitely more healthy than the Chargers. But when you're missing your starting quarterback who drafted 10th overall, that really is a blow. Now, I know Carson Wentz has filled in the role okay, but he's a backup, right? You're very limited with Carson Wentz. He makes a lot of boneheaded decisions. I watched the Eagles game last week, and that's kind of what was the downfall of Carson Wentz's career in the NFL, right? He had that ACL tear, kind of lost a step in his athletic ability. He was very mobile. That was kind of the thing with Carson Wentz. He was never fast, but he was mobile. I mean, he was quick. Let me say he's never like Lamar fast, not even close to anything like that, but he can move. He can move, and he was very elusive in the pocket. But he's a statue back there now and does make some poor decisions from time to time. So he's a backup quarterback. And here's the thing that really is an issue for the Vikings. And I went on like a full-on rant about this in my podcast. I think it was earlier this week or the week before that. That J.J. McCarthy is. They need to move off of McCarthy now. We're halfway through the season. McCarthy's played 2 games in his career. He's played a quarter of good football, but besides that, he's shown is he even a starter in this league? You know, starting worthy in this league. That's what I was trying to look for. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. One thing that's an issue beyond whether or not he can play or anything is because we don't know whether he can because he's never on the field. And tonight, I think when you really need a player to be out there on the field, the Vikings really need some positive momentum against a pretty beat up Chargers team. JJ McCarthy's not out on the field. And I get you don't necessarily want to rush a player back from injury and put him in a position to get hurt. Like if he's truly hurt, I get it. I mean, what's he on, a sprained ankle? So, but he's been out for weeks and weeks and weeks. He's out the entirety of the last season. And again, if he's hurt, they shouldn't put him back in the game. I'm not sitting there saying, dude, I don't care. Throw him in there. They need him. Like, I'm not saying that, but they need a spark at quarterback because the Vikings are right now blowing what they have, which is young players, all-time level players. Justin Jefferson just kind of rotting away. Like these years are just kind of going by for the Vikings. I've seen they've been in trade talks for Kirk Cousins again. Now, I don't even know if Kirk Cousins has anything left. I mean, the last time we seen him, I know he stepped in that Panthers-Falcons 30-0 blowout. But besides that, in a real full game, Kirk Cousins looked pretty washed in the last few weeks he was playing for the Vikings or for the Falcons. So I don't really know if he has anything left. I mean, I guess it's worth a shot. I think tonight, depending on how Carson Wentz plays, will be a telltale sign whether or not they go and trade for a quarterback. I guess we'll just have to find out. But this is a big game for both of these teams tonight. The Chargers, again, dealing with some big injuries. Brian Flores loves the blitz, plays zone defense. So I feel like this is a tough assignment more for the Chargers than the Vikings. The Vikings, for the most part, are actually pretty healthy. I don't really necessarily know as much as their defensive injuries, but I haven't really heard anything. So I don't think they're too injured. I mean, every team has players that are going to be out, questionable. But in terms of having major players out, I don't think the Vikings really have any. Hawkinson's healthy. Jay Jettas is healthy. Jordan Addison, like I think a lot of these guys are pretty good to go. I think they're just missing their quarterback. So the Vikings really, I think, should have the upper hand in this game. I know the Chargers are at home, but the Chargers did just get smoked by the Colts at home. So clearly their injuries are a lot more than they can overcome at the moment. I don't know if Joe Alt's coming back tonight. He did practice last week, so maybe they'll end up trying pushing him back into the lineup. I did not check this morning. If he is playing, that's a massive bonus for the Chargers. But if not, then again, that's another massive blow, and their offensive line is going to get trampled by this Vikings very blitz-heavy scheme by Brian Flores. There's no person who loves the blitz more than him. So, yeah, I think the Chargers could be in some trouble in this game. Then they need to win this game because, for one, they're still in the race for their division. They're tied with the Chiefs. The Broncos are a game ahead, but the Broncos offense, even though they had a pretty historic performance in the fourth quarter last week, definitely still some question marks there with that offense. But, I mean, the Chargers are still in this thing. Like, not even just to win their division in general, because I think right now with how many injuries they have, I just don't necessarily think they're going to be able to keep up with the Chiefs and the Broncos at this point. But they at least try to stay in the race for the 7 seed, the 6 seed, the 5 seed, like, just try to get a wild card spot at least. But it's going to be hard. I mean, I think it's going to be hard. They've dropped a lot of games, games like the Giants, the Colts last week. Who did they lose to the week before that? I forgot who they lost to the week before that. But definitely they're in some trouble, and this would be a massive win for them tonight. Would they move to 5-3? Be able to get some players back soon, and I think Hampton should be coming off of IR soon. I don't necessarily remember the extent of his injury, but I didn't hear it was a season-ending injury. We should be able to come back at some point. I see the Chargers are in some trade talks for some running backs, so I don't know how that's necessarily looking, but I don't know, man. I think the Chargers, this is, like I mentioned, it's a big game for me here. The Vikings tonight as well, the same. Their division, everyone in their division has a winning record. Of course, I think they have one of the best rosters in that division. The entirety of the NFC North is extremely talented, but they really, in terms of quarterback situation, by far the Vikings are the worst in the NFC North. They've got to figure that out fast. I mean, I don't know if they want to trade for someone like I mentioned, or I wonder what pick they could get for JJ McCarthy. Like, I wonder if they could get like a 3rd round pick back in return. I don't even know if anyone would do that with right now his injury history. Like, can the guy even play, 5 games at a time? Right now, you'd say no because he hasn't. Clearly there's some injury issues there. that you don't want at all for your starting quarterback, because one of the biggest things that I feel like is the most valuable, even over play, is just being reliable. If you're reliable, you'll be able to make a name for yourself in the NFL, but DJ McCarthy is the complete opposite of reliable right now. He needs to play at least like a 5-game sample. I mean, he can't even do that. So that's rough. In terms of this game tonight, I'd probably end up taking the Vikings to win this game. As I mentioned, I think they're healthier. I think I like Brian Flores' defensive scheme against this pretty banged up Chargers team. Now, if the Chargers were healthy, I'd definitely end up taking the Chargers. But considering their injuries, man, it's tough for the Chargers right now. They're really struggling. That's the thing is, like, if the Chargers get down, they don't have the firepower to come back right now. I mean, they do. Keenan Allen, Quinn, like, they're healthy, but Justin Herbert just doesn't have the time to pick teams apart right now. They don't have a running game to be able to sustain long drives and take the time off the clock, which will lead the Vikings to end up getting more drives, more chances. And I think the Vikings are going to end up winning the game. I think they're going to put Carson Wentz under some pressure. Again, I think Carson Wentz, if they had a serious quarterback as well, I'd say the Vikings would definitely win this game. But I'm still a little on the fence with the Vikings, but I would take the Vikings to win this game tonight. I think it will be close. I don't think this game's going to be a blowout by any stretch, especially a Jim Harbaugh coach team. But coming off a pretty decently sized loss against the Colts last week, but I would take the Vikings in tonight's game. The next thing I want to talk about here is, should the Texans throw in the towel on the season after a pretty rough performance against the Seattle Seahawks and really just a rough offensive stretch all season? Their defense has been fantastic, one of the top units in the league, no doubt about it. They're very well coached in the defensive department, but in that offensive department, the same cannot be said there for those guys. Look, they're 2-4. There's no chance they're going to win their division. Unless Daniel Jones goes down and the Colts just sustain a bunch of injuries, they're not going to catch them. And I don't even think they're going to catch the Jags, who are 4-3. They just don't have the offense to do so. One of the things that the Texans can't play from behind. I just mentioned that with the Chargers right now with their injuries. The Texans just can't play from behind. They have to run. They have to pound the ball. They have to score. Take 7-8 minutes, like half the quarter off the clock on a drive, and be able to score something, whether or not it's a field goal. One of the things with the Texans, I think, to be honest with you, I think they pass too much. I really do. I think for a team that has a wretched offensive line and their receiving crew is pretty banged up, and whether or not they're even that good anyway, they have a couple of rookies starting. Nico Collins has been banged up all season. So, I think they pass way too much. And when they do pass, they really need to be giving these intermediate routes to C.J. Stroud. But instead, I watched the Seahawks game. He is just chucking 40, 50-yard passes up in the air with no time to throw it. And they're like 5-10 yards out of their reach. I mean, it's not even close. They're just drive-killing plays, and they do it every drive. And it just ends up killing them. I mean, they're too busy looking for the big play. It's like, one of the things that Stroud was, especially his rookie year, was how good he was at processing the field and getting that quick throw out, making the good throw, the intermediate throw. Stroud's always been great at that. Well, they're kind of taking that away from him. And even when he does have it to an extent as well, he just has no time to do anything. He is literally, they're just blitzing the life out of CJ Stroud. He's just getting beat like a drum back there. So I don't think the Texans are going to make the playoffs. I was pretty high on the Texans coming into this season. I love the defense, which has actually lived up to what I thought. The defense is playing great. It keeps them in games. It makes the score look good. But if their defense was even mediocre, this team would get shut out. I mean, they'd really be losing 28-10 just about every game if their defense was even just mediocre. But they had one of the top units in the league, and they don't even feel like they're really in these games. You look at the score, and it's like, damn, like the Texans are in a lot of these games they're losing, but you watch it, and it's like, you never really have any hope that the Houston Texans are going to win their game. And I'm not saying that, trying to sound like I'm hating or anything, but, I'm just going off the eye test and watching these games. Like, Houston has no life on offense. And a team that has no life in a scoring heavy league, where scoring is up in just about every metric this year, has no chance. If your scoring is going down every year, like the Houston Texans scoring continuously gets worse every year, and the league average in scoring is going up, you stand no chance. I just think they have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Look, they'll beat up on teams like the Titans, like a really injury-plagued Ravens team, but teams like the Seahawks, teams like the Colts, they're just not going to be able to beat up on teams like that. They just can't. I think they actually play the Texans this week, I think. So that'll be pretty interesting to see there. That game, a divisional game. That will be the Texan season on the line this upcoming Sunday. They dropped to 2-5. It's definitely over at that point. I don't necessarily think there's a lot of hope now, but I do think there is some hope to cling on to because the AFC is wide open. But yeah, man, the Texans, this is a really telling week for them. So we'll see here. Next thing I want to talk about here is addressing the rumors about Shedeur Sanders, the start in the last 4 weeks. I was seeing that there was a podcast, and I've been seeing that there's some news swirling around the NFL and just everywhere in the media, really, that Shedeur Sanders probably will get a chance to start within the next 4 weeks. They've been getting some talks within the organization as well, and they just kind of want to give it a go and see what's going on there. I do think that's a really good idea. I think one thing that the Browns are doing is that if they do end up doing that, I do think that giving him and Gabriel a chance, I think it's fair to give them, both a chance. Unless if Gabriel's really going out there and he starts really winning a slew of games, they did beat up on the Dolphins last week at home. The Cleveland Browns defense at home was like historically good as well. I don't know if you guys have checked the numbers on that, but it's pretty crazy how good that Browns defense is in their home stadium. But I think if Dillon Gabriel goes out and wins a slew of games, looks really good, then I think start him the rest of the season. If you really feel comfortable that he can be your best option for your future, hell, go for it. And I think some people, I've seen some people kind of bash me for some of my Shedeur Sanders sakes. They think like, hey, screw Dillon Gabriel. I don't even know why you're playing him. Shedeur Sanders deserves a chance over everyone else, and like. I've said multiple times before, like, I absolutely think Dillon Gabriel deserves a chance. I mean, for one, he was drafted over Shedeur Sanders. I think when I say deserves a chance, I think deserves a chance over Shedeur Sanders. Now, was Sanders seen as a higher prospect than Gabriel coming into the draft? Yes. Now, you're probably asking, well, why wasn't he drafted over Dillon Gabriel then? Well, he had really, really bad meetings with a lot of the GMs around the league, which left a really bad taste in their mouth. And it was kind of like, one of those things like, hey, we're not going to draft you. You feel like you're better than us, then we're not drafting you. And that's why he fell so far. That is exactly why he fell so far in the draft. Whether or not, also too, people think that their jobs are on the line, these head coaches, Shedeur goes in, then Dion will come in and replace him. I don't know. I don't get mixed up in any of that. But, I guess I necessarily could see that happening as well. Maybe that's a scenario. You never know with these people. They're always looking out for their jobs. There's not many jobs that will pay you a couple of like millions of dollars a year. So these guys really want to keep their jobs, and probably does have a little bit of a factor to do with it. Not saying it matters to me or not. I mean, it doesn't. These guys are all making ridiculous amounts of money either way that I'm not making. But still, I think Gabriel deserves a chance over Shedeur Sanders right now. They drafted him over him. I thought he's actually played okay. I think one of the things with Dillon Gabriel, though, is that he doesn't, he's kind of a check down Charlie. I think a lot of the Browns fans do say the same thing, is that they watch him and he's like, yeah, but can this guy throw a pass over 15 yards? So I'm not saying that he hasn't, but he definitely just kind of likes going to the short route, which, he doesn't turn the ball over, but it doesn't necessarily lead to successful drives either. I thought their defense was more of the story against the Dolphins last week than necessarily their offense, but Quinshon Judkins really came along as well. But in terms of the rumors of Shedeur starting the last 4 weeks, I think it's pretty interesting. I think, look, like I mentioned, if Gabriel's playing really well and he's actually winning them some football games, and I say stick with Gabriel. And I think what would be best for them is to trade Shedeur Sanders at that point. They have no obligation to start Shedeur at all. I absolutely understand that. Honestly, to me, it doesn't really matter, but they have absolutely no obligation to start him. And I completely understand that. But I think what's best for your franchise, personally, is if Gabriel kind of goes out there, he stinks, they're losing a ton of games. I think it's worth to see what you have in Shedeur the last couple of games. Like, if you give him like a 4 or 5 game sample size, 3 or 4 game sample size, and he goes out there and he's really balling out the last couple of weeks, and it kind of gives your team some momentum heading into the offseason, then I say, hey, maybe you should stick with this guy. You do have a little, you have some there to work with. If he goes out there and he blows and, you need to draft another quarterback in the offseason, then, you got to do what you got to do. But I think it is worth giving that sample size because for one, he's a big name. People are going to constantly be talking about Shedeur, whether he's on the team 2-3 years from now or whatever, and he never gets a snap. People are going to be constantly mentioning, like, when is Shedeur ever going to get a snap? Are you ever going to give him a chance? That's what the media is going to do to him, right? So I think it's worth, especially like I mentioned, if they're out there and they're kind of just still losing a lot of games, Gabriel doesn't look great, or whatever it is. Unless Gabriel's really going out there and you think he's the guy, then why would you even put in Shedeur Sanders, right? Like, I completely understand. But I mentioned, if it doesn't seem like your franchise is really turning around, you have a guy that, has a legitimate chance to maybe be your franchise quarterback who was seen to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft at points. I definitely think it's worth a go. I think it's worth trying it out. So there has been rumors about him starting the last 4 weeks of the season. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to find out. But that's kind of creeping up on us here. I mean, we're in week 8. I mean, week 18 is the last week. That's 10 weeks from now. We're already almost through 10 weeks of the season. So that's going to be coming sooner than later, like faster than we think. So we'll see. I thought it was a pretty interesting story to talk about. I want to hear what you guys think about. Do you think they should give Shedeur Sanders a chance at some point the last couple weeks of the season? Trust me, I still think, keep throwing in Dylan Gabriel. Just win a game. Like, he's played, 3 games in his career so far? Keep putting him in. Don't put in Shedeur right now. I mean, obviously, unless Gabriel's hurt or something, but, give Gabriel a chance. I definitely agree with that. I'm not saying shove in Shedeur now, but at the end of the season, if they really are struggling, then, maybe it is worth giving them a go and seeing what you got. Next thing I want to talk about here is what has been the turning point for the Colts so far this season after a hot 6-1 start. I'll make this pretty brief here, to be honest with you. I think it is just the quarterback situation. The thing is with the Colts is, like, everyone's kind of known, like, the Colts roster has been really good. They've been a quarterback away for a while now, like probably like the last 5 years or so, since 2020, 2021, when they ended up trading for Carson Wentz. And they actually ended up almost making the playoffs with him. He had a really good year with Indy. It wasn't Frank Reich. I mean, that seems like forever ago. But they ended up trading for Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers. Then they ended up actually making the playoffs with Phillip Rivers. But this team's been like a quarterback away for the last half decade or so, for the last 5 years or so. And I think they actually finally got one with Daniel Jones. And I think that was the hope for Anthony Richardson, but it never turned out to be. And I don't think it ever will be in Indy. I think this team is pretty settled on Daniel Jones or whoever else besides Anthony Richardson. I don't think Anthony Richardson will be a Colt next year. Maybe even gets traded in the middle of the season, even though right now he's hurt. It ended up crushing his orbital in pregame or something. I don't know, something ridiculous. I don't even know how that happens, but I think the whole turning point for the Colts, like I mentioned, is some good signings. Travarius Ward was a really good signing. Their offensive line isn't quite dominant, but they are great. No one quite thinks of them as like a Lions unit, or I guess not necessarily the Eagles now, but when the Eagles are healthy and have their best offensive line out there, like an Eagles unit, they're maybe just that notch below, but they're probably the 3rd or 4th best offensive line in the league besides those two, which are juggernauts. Their offensive line is great. They have good receivers as well. Chris Ballard's actually drafted really well the last few years, I thought, besides the Anthony Richardson pick, but I can't necessarily blame him for going all in on a guy like that. As I previously mentioned, this team's been a quarterback away for the last couple of years, and they were messing around against some old guys off the street, seeing whether or not it would work. And it hasn't really worked for him, but now, they go out, they give Daniel Jones a shot. And look, Jonathan Taylor's playing some of the best football in his career. He's up there in MVP voting. The offensive line is a bruising unit. Their receivers are just more than good. I mean, they're a really good unit, and their defense has played really well. And Shane Steichen has coached this team to play to really, I guess, their highest expectations right now. They're really playing some really good football. I mean, they're one of, if not the best team in the NFL. I had them ranked as the best team in the NFL this week on my Top 10 Tuesday. So, I absolutely think the turning point for this team has been the quarterback. That's all they've needed the last 4 or 5 years as a quarterback. And Whether or not you told me at the beginning of the season Daniel Jones would be the guy who turned it around, I'd say probably not. But the fact he is has been really incredible, and he's been doing more than enough for this team to really just be one of the best teams in the NFL. Honestly, I don't necessarily think he's playing like he's out there blowing people's minds. He's doing just enough to be able to win games, and even a little better. I mean, I thought he's been playing these throws he's been making have been high IQ, high level throws. He's not turning the ball over. He's been completing passes, which is something Anthony Richardson could not do. I think he was under a 50% completion percentage, so he couldn't even really complete passes, more or less make a good pass. So that's all the Colts have really needed. And mind you, too, with Anthony Richardson, they were in the playoff hunt with him being a sub 50% completion percentage passer. That's still pretty ridiculous, right? So that goes to show that their roster, they have a high-level roster, but have been a quarterback away, and they have it. So I think the ceiling, like the sky is the limit for the Colts this season, and they're a real threat in the AFC. I'd like to see, they play the Chiefs in a few weeks. That is going to be a real game, and I cannot wait to see that game. That's going to be a big-time proven game for the Colts. Next thing I want to talk about here is what is Aaron Glenn doing with the QB situation in New York? I've seen his press conference he had over the week about how, he's not announcing this week's quarterback because, he doesn't want to give the team a competitive advantage. Then the reporter asked about Tyrod Taylor's knee being injured and whether or not he'd be good to go. And he was kind of sitting there and just, I don't know, kind of saying like weird stuff and like kind of hinting at who's starting and who's not going to be starting. The whole thing was just very confusing. I think Tyrod Taylor's probably going to start this week. I don't think you necessarily do that, and then you're going to go out there and just start Justin Fields like he's been starting all season, and now all of a sudden you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to make this a mystery. I'm going to make this a solve the riddle game of who's going to be my quarterback now all of a sudden. I think he's going to start Tyrod Taylor even with the knee injury. Justin Fields has been terrible the last couple of weeks. Hasn't been all of his fault. No, look, I've seen Tyrod Taylor go out there and fill in for Fields as well. He's just getting beat to death. I mean, they're getting beat to death back there. I don't know what you really expect them to do. And I think they've invested a lot of first-round picks in this offensive line over the last couple of years, and they're not really developing. And I think that just goes with the coaching and just the organization in general. Justin Fields was saying that Woody Johnson, he's only ever spoke to him like one time, and just like Woody Johnson just says he stays out of his way. Bro, you are the biggest part of the organization. You need to be down there with your players, including your starting quarterback, who you just paid 2 years, $40 million or something. You need to be down there with your team, dude. And I just think it's a massive issue for the Jets. It goes deeper than Aaron Glenn. I mean, I know Aaron Glenn has been it just has not been very good to this point at all, to be honest with you. There's already talks about him being one and done. Probably not. They ended up, look, he has a legacy in the Jets already. He was a player there for a long time. And, well, here is the thing, though, is that a lot of these coaches, now are kind of one and done guys. Like, they kind of just move off fast. Like, a lot of the ownerships, a lot of the GMs are just kind of like, hey, you got to come in and fix this mess or else it's over. And the Jets have actually gotten worse. So, look, I don't know what they're going to do with Aaron Glenn, but I think this whole QB situation is just crazy. I don't know who they're going to start. Or as I mentioned previously, is that I think they could start Tyrod Taylor, but I don't think it really matters. I really don't think it matters. I think the only thing you're doing is you're kind of just throwing in the white flag with Justin Fields. A lot of the Jets fans are out on Justin Fields, but they're also in on Justin Fields. Then you have the media saying Justin Fields is horrible. He's never been able to play quarterback. And then you have half of them saying that, hey, this guy's never had a legitimate shot besides on Pittsburgh, and he was 3-1 in Pittsburgh. So I said this about the Titans yesterday. I don't care who you throw in as the QB for the New York Jets. They stink. They suck. That team is terrible. It does not matter. They have no time to throw. The receivers, Garrett Wilson's been hurt. It doesn't seem like anyone can really get open. There's just no sort of culture of good vibes going around in the organization. It's just a mess. It is a complete mess right now. And who do the Jets play this week? I don't even remember who they play this week, to be honest with you. But honestly, I mean, they can very well go 0-8. They most likely are going to go 0-8. And what if Tyrod Taylor goes out there and sucks? And you're really screwed. I just probably stick with Fields, but at the same time, Tyrod Taylor also could be your best chance to win. And at that point, you have to put in your best chance to win. I think you always have to, no matter what. But I don't know. I just thought, I don't know if you guys have seen the press conference. I think it was after practice or before practice. He was talking about it, saying, yeah, I know who my starting quarterback is. I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it. I don't want to give the team another or a competitive advantage. I'm like, dude, just say you're starting Tyrod Taylor. You're not gonna just start Justin Fields every week of the year so far, and then all of a sudden make it a clue game, a mystery game. All of a sudden of who's going to be your starting quarterback. Just say you're starting Tyrod, dude. I mean, I don't think anyone's really falling for it, to be honest with you. And it's not like that. You have Tom Brady sitting waiting on your bench, like, hey, I might put in Tom Brady this week. I have a serious secret weapon on my bench. It's like, bro, you got Tyrod Taylor on your bench. And I think Tyrod Taylor is a good player, but, it's not necessarily like you had this massive, this great player sitting on your bench waiting that is going to surprise everybody. Like, no, we all know how good Tyrod Taylor is. Like, he's an okay quarterback, but, it's not like he's going to come in there and all of a sudden you're going to start scoring 40 a game and start winning games. Like, bro, just say you're starting him. I just think it's kind of corny. I don't know. Next thing I want to talk about here is the Ravens. Do they have no choice, or they have no choice but to beat the Bears this upcoming week if they want any chance at making the playoffs? And also, too, they had a bunch of stuff going on in the locker room. They had a bunch of ping pong tables in there, video games, stuff like that. They completely removed from the locker room. And seems like it's getting really serious there in Baltimore now. Just kind of want to talk about this here for a minute. Whether or not, they do have to beat the Bears this weekend in order to have a chance to make the playoffs. 1-6, no, it's over. If you go 10-0, you're 11-6, and they can only lose like one more game to have a shot at the playoffs. The AFC is a very tight race. You're gonna have a lot of teams with like 9 or 10 wins, and I don't know. You give yourself way just not enough room for error there, and I can't see the Ravens doing it. It's looking like Lamar might play, but it's also still kind of up in the air. I don't know. He jogged around for 20 minutes yesterday at practice, so I don't know if that's a good sign or if it's not a good sign or what's going on with the Ravens. But if he does end up playing and they do end up losing, that's just really bad news for the Ravens. I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar says, hey, man, my hamstring's killing me again. I'm probably just going to sit the next 10 weeks or so. Or the next, 10 weeks or so of the season. So I think this is a lot of people are talking about how, hey, the Ravens have an opportunity to come back from 1-5 and make a shot at the playoffs. They have the roster to do so. Well, this week is the only opportunity to do so, to start that, because you're starting to run out of opportunities to start that magic now. It's like, okay, you're coming off of a bye. You have a pretty weak stretch of opponents, and this is your only shot. Because if you're 1-6, if you went 5 straight wins, you'd be 6-6. That's 5 straight weeks of winning to just be only at 500. So that's a bit of an issue there for sure. And they have a 1.8% chance at 1-5 right now to make the playoffs. So definitely a bit of a struggle there. And I just kind of want to talk about the whole thing with the locker room and all. A lot of people thought that, with them taking out the ping pong tables, a lot of just the fun activities in the locker room was a thing. About the coaches punishing the players, whatever it was. Well, there's been multiple instances now of the coaches saying, hey, this was the veteran players doing it. We had nothing to do with this. The veteran players are like, hey, we need to get this out. It's a distraction. We're not punishing anybody. They all thought it was a distraction. So I think that's actually a really good move from the players to do that. And I think it's actually a good sign for the Baltimore Ravens, which I haven't said much this season, a good sign. Taking out the distractions, really getting serious. If that team gets serious, they really buckle down. The play calling gets better. They've taken this bye week to really look at some things, make some changes, which is what they needed to do. This team could absolutely make a run and finish 10-7 or 11-6. I think that's their ceiling. That's their ceiling is 10-7 or 11-6. They're not going to win 11 straight games. They're just not going to. The Ravens always drop a game they should win, 1 or 2 games. But 10-7. If they can manage to get there, which is what 9-2 at this point, which is still hard to do. Going 9-2 is difficult. But they do have one of the weaker schedules. They have the 25th ranked schedule in the league in terms of strength of schedule. So they can pull it off, but this is a big week against the Bears. And honestly, Caleb Williams has been playing. He's not the reason they've been winning, and that's been kind of going around the Bears media as well. And I've seen it in his play. It's like he's not the reason they've been winning games at all. They've been winning games off of good running, returning the ball out. Ben Johnson is calling good play calling, but he's still missing a lot of throws. Had some bad interceptions against the Saints last week, and still has not looked great. I mean, he's looked like okay, but Caleb Williams does not look great at all by any stretch. So I feel like they can definitely pull off this win. If the defense stays how it's been, then Caleb Williams is going to pick them apart and have a career game. So it's a massive week for the Ravens. If they want to make that miraculous run, they have to win this week. And the last thing I want to talk about here today is some of the players that I thought were pretty polarizing last night in the NBA's opening night, in terms of the long slate of games at least. Wembanyama, Embiid, and VJ Edgecombe. Let's go on and talk about these guys for a couple of minutes. Wemby had a 40-point performance, and if you watched him, it's actually legitimately scary. Like, this guy he could legitimately be the first guy to average 40 points a game. Look, there's been guys average 33, 34, whatever a game, 36. Victor could be the first player to ever average 40 points a game. Look, that's going to be a very difficult task, but I don't see why he couldn't. Last night, his ability of shot blocking on defense and being able to cover what feels like the entirety of the floor, he gets in players' heads. Like, he was in the Mavericks' head, for one. Players are always looking around for Wemby. Just the amount, just sheer terror he brings on the court is pretty incredible, to be honest with you. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to win MVP by a mile this season. I mean, look, it's only one game, but he's healthy. You can tell he's definitely been working on his skills a lot. His shooting has really improved. Just his step back game, like, he was kind of playing like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right there on the mid-range, stepping back, kind of in that fading midi. I'm like, dude, holy shit. If this guy can pull off a dangerous mid-range game, it is over for this league. Like, he has the ability to really make the Spurs be like a 72-plus win team. Maybe not necessarily this season, but they have a really good roster, though. That team's roster is really good. And again, the main thing that's been in Victor's way is just his health. He had the blood clots last year. Hopefully, that stays away from him. He stays in good health. But was it Dylan Harper? I thought that was a really good pickup for him. I think one of the things the Spurs have that's kind of a weird issue is that they have a lot of guards on that team. But that doesn't matter. Victor can defend the entirety of the floor. So he's shot blocking at the three, under the rim. He can take one step from the three-point line into the paint and get a chase down block on somebody. It is ridiculous. I mean, he had AD. AD did play a good game last night. They did go against Cooper Flagg. I mentioned Cooper Flagg at like 10-10. I struggled a bit from the field, but, it's his first game. Victor, speaking of Wembanyama, was not very good in his first couple of games in the league. It just takes some getting used to. He 18, 19 years old? I think it's born in 2006. So, you got to cut him some slack. He's as old as some high schoolers, right? So, I think Cooper Flagg will be fine. He's a great prospect. I thought he actually played really well defensively last night. But Wembanyama, I thought that performance last night was almost kind of scary, to be honest with you, how good he's going to be. So, I think he's arrived. The man has arrived, and he's going to be a serious issue in this league for a while now. I think the Spurs are a sleeper in the West. I think the Spurs could be seriously dangerous and maybe competing for an NBA championship. I guess we'll have to see. The other two players I wanted to talk about here from last night as well was VJ Edgecombe, the rookie that 76ers drafted, who I thought had a really, really one of the better rookie first game performances of all time last night. 34 points, ended up leading him to a 1-point win over the Celtics. A lot of people were very skeptical on that pick. They're like, hey, this guy's a very big time project player. Will they be able to make it happen from him coming out of college? And so far, look, he had a great preseason. He was very good in summer league. Comes out and balls out against the Celtics. So 34 points last night for him. I thought he played really well. But he is a great two-way player. He is going to be a great player. He really is, especially as he develops. I think the 76ers have found another gem. I think one of the things with Philly is that Philly has actually been an amazing drafting team. Jared McCain, who is struggling with injuries, but he was playing last year. I mean, he was great. VJ Edgecombe now, look, it's only been one game, but he looks like he's going to be a star in this league. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, they draft really well, especially over the last, probably decade or so. Look, they had the Markelle Fultz pick, which was a disaster. Ben Simmons, who was really good for them for a while, didn't pan out how they wanted him to be, but I still say it was a good pick either way. I'm sure there's guys in that draft that you'd absolutely take over Ben Simmons, but still, he did have some good years on Philly. But I'm going to talk about Joel Embiid here, and then we're going to end the video here. But people are very concerned about Joel Embiid now. He had 4 points last night on 20 minutes with 2 assists and 6 rebounds. It's one game, but it is a little scary to see that for Joel Embiid. People are saying that last night he's now officially a shell of himself, especially after all the injuries he's had. He will not be able to play back-to-back games this year. They say most likely he's not going to, so maybe Joel Embiid's career could be coming to an end. And he's going to be one of the bigger what-ifs in NBA history. Look, he ended up winning an MVP. We've seen some really good years, but injuries held the man back for a long time. He could have been a serious all-time great. He'll be an all-time great what if, that's for sure. And we definitely know what he was like at the peak of his power, so at least we got to see that. But in terms of long-term sustained success for Joel Embiid, we'll probably never really know. I mean, it's only been one game. Maybe he turns it back on. He didn't really play at all last season, or much at all, so maybe he's just getting back to kind of being warmed up. But it did not look good for Joel Embiid last night. So, but hey, if he can get back to playing any sort of how he was playing, the 76ers are going to be a real threat in the East as well. So, yeah, man, we'll have to look out for that. But I thought it was kind of depressing watching Joel Embiid last night, to be honest with you. But yeah, man, that's it. That's kind of want to talk about those guys there. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button as well. And some crazy news going around this morning. So, yeah, man, a lot of crazy stuff going around. Tomorrow we got Slips for Sundays. Can't wait for that. One of my favorite segments here on the channel to end off the week. And then we'll be heading into a full slate of NFL games. So that's it for today's video, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Take it easy.